Hi everyone, this is Abdurrahman Klal. In today's presentation, we will be, continuing learning about exception handling in Java. In our previous presentation, we understood that exception is an unexpected or unwanted situation that happens to a program. So a good programmer is always ready to, receive unexpected behavior of the program. So for instance, that if you are allowing user to insert or input some values to the program, and the user input something that you were not expecting, then how you handle that type of situation. For instance, you are making a program that the user has to input two digits to get the division. So let's say 5 divided by 0. So this unexpected situation may cause program in a place where it could be creating an infinity or unexpected behavior of it. So a good programmer is always ready to it. Another situation, for instance, if you are working on a network-based software and all of a sudden you realize the network has been barred. So in this situation, your program will be in a place that has to do some actions, after the network is dropped. Or you are connected with database and database connection has been lost, or you're working with a file and the file has been deleted or something. So all this situation basically considered to be an exception, so or exceptions. So we have to be ready for them. So today I will be explaining more that usually we have, if we talk about exceptions, we are talking about two major categories of exceptions. One is uh, the checked exception, and the other one is unchecked expectations. Sorry, exceptions, not expectations. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so let's say if we have a checked exception from the word, we can understand that there's somebody who already checks it before it runs it. So the compiler is the one who checks the exceptions before it runs. So there are many situations, for example, that you have a class. So if class is not found, the program will not be running. It is the compiler responsibility to identify that the class has been there. So if the class not found exception is run, so compiler will not execute the program until this exception is met. So this is the first exception that is checked during compile time, right? So let's say if we are working on a filing, so we have a situation, for instance, that the file is uh, you know, open or not, or it received the input streams or output streams. So this all happens at here at this level that is called the IO exception. We also have SQL exception. So these are the examples of checked exceptions. So unchecked exceptions happen during runtime. So during runtime, you can understand from the word, as I just mentioned to you, that if the programmer has allowed user to input some values and user is in now passing values such as 5 divided by 0. So that situation is creating an automatic, exception. So this automatic exception, I just give you example that 5 divided by 0. So both of them are now going to create infinity. So you have to be ready for unchecked exception. So another example, let's say array indexed out of bound. For instance, your array was user-defined size, and then you were asking values during runtime, and then you pass some values that were not expected to be passed to an index that was not in the bounding of the array, in the boundaries of the array. So these are just examples. So you also have a null pointer. So you may have more if you wanted to know more about them. So you can easily Google, and then you can know more about the exception handling. So in today's program, I'm basically trying to make you understand that if, as we discussed here other day, that exception can be user-defined or exception can be predefined. So if the exceptions are user-defined, so also predefined, so you just have to use the try-catch, so it's easy. But if you have your own defined exceptions, then how you basically use them. So I'm basically extending the knowledge that if we have a method and then method is basically using the user-defined exception, so how can we work on them? So let me just quickly make my own, how to say, my own program for this, my class that basically takes, nothing but just a message to show us that how we can, how can we, allow users to programmers to make their, define the exception and how can we use them. So first of all, I'm not going to make any special methods in them. I'm just going to pass quick constructors message. So that is very pretty straightforward. So I have a string as Okay, a string, and then I receive a message, for instance, from any caller, and I know that my class is not a base class, so I should basically pass my argument towards a superclass, that is the exception class, by calling super. Okay, so now here I have already I have my signature declared. So I'm just going to quickly go to the try body. I'm going to make my test method, or my test method is better. Okay, I'm going to say my method. So my method here. So I'm going to make a method down there. If that method will only, through the exception. So I'm just quickly being saying that I have my own exception here. So basically it will be coming from here, and my exception will not be considered here. So we're gonna see that how it happens. Okay, so let's run it. And here I'm basically passing, a message, system out. So whatever message comes from my method, this method should basically be displayed here. So let's see how it works. So once this is done, I'm gonna make public, how to say, public static, in a way that I'm not gonna make any object. I'm not gonna return any math, sorry, any um, return. So simple as that. So I'm gonna just make it like this. Is pretty straightforward, right? So now I'm gonna make like throw. As soon as I throw new, and here I'm gonna pass my exceptions that I have just declared, and what message I'm gonna say. This is, you are facing my exception. You are facing my exception issue. Okay, that's just a message. This could be any that you want. But as soon as you write this, you're gonna face this problem. So what's that problem? That you're gonna say like you have to add into the signature of the method, because that's a user-defined one. So you cannot just use a, directly throw if it is not the user-defined. So as soon as you hit this, so basically you got this, and now it will be thrown backward here, and then you can get the print message printed. Let's try it and see how it works. So, yep. So it's showing us a message, or it's a good programmer. If you wanted to make it like this way, it's also perfectly fine, because this throws right here, and this throws right there an exception. So if you have exception, you still can print, or if you want to print from here, it's also possible. So in both ways, it works fine. But if you have, so basically you have to add this throws here and throw here. And then if you have a method that basically is, let's say, my test, I'm going to make another method, which is using explicit, this call is called, this throwing message is called explicit, exception throw. Exception throws. Okay, so why? Because we are throwing it, but there are implicit ways. But I'm gonna make like if I do not have my class, exception, I have exceptions such as illegal argument. So how it happens? I don't even put this one. This will be fine. Let's say my test. So I'm gonna make like here my test, and I'm gonna make, okay, sorry, public static void my test, and then nothing else here. There you go. Yep. Okay, and here you can throw new any available, list of, this is list of what I would say, like exception, illegal argument exception, just for the try, right? So that's it. So now we know that as soon as my method happens, it will basically execute this one, and then this will show us the message output, and this will show us this one, because and I did not put any throw here, because I have already told you that illegal argument exception is a predefined exception, so you don't have to, throw it. It is automatically thrown, but if you wanted to throw, so you have the same way, like this. So if you do that way or the other way, it's all fine, but for our, you know, for our example purpose, I'm not going to put this here. Let's run it. So basically, you know that it is automatically handling this exception. So I have now to put my this exception that is called legal argument exception. just in case that's okay. Run it. So why? Because you're facing exception here, because this one is, being passed first. So it shows and the program terminates because the sketch is working. So let's say if you wanted to work other way around. So let's run this way, that you put this as first. So, and this one as first as well. So you will, if this works, then this will not be working for sure. Let's run it and see. Excellent. So here we saw one thing, that if the exception is user-defined, you have to throw from here. And if the exception is predefined, you don't have to, you are not forced to use the throw because it's automatically, signatured. Or if you wanted to still throw this way, this is perfectly fine. It is not going to create any problem for you. So it's all right. I hope you understand. A quick recap, that in this program we learned that we can define our own exception classes by extending the exception class. And then in order to run them, we know that we have two ways by which we can do it. It's implicit or explicit. This one, both of them are explicit way of throwing, but they are implicit. For instance, 5 divided by 0, so automatic will happen. But we realize that if we are making our own method or a method that throws a user-defined exception, you have to call throws exception. If you're working on a predefined exception, even if you don't throw it directly, it will still be handled by the program implicitly. I hope it makes sense. If you have any issue, please do not hesitate to drop me a message. Thank you. Bye-bye.